Well, I'm a technical guy. I have been a tech entrepreneur since 1996. So I was part of the first generation of the web industry. Back then, there was very few VCs, angels, no accelerators for sure, no co-working space and things like this. There was not even the concept of startup community. That just did not exist. Very simple. So fast forward to 2005, I was thinking about starting my second company. And I thought that it would be maybe a good idea to do that in Prague for two reasons. First is my technical co-founder was living in Prague. He's an English guy. And also he said to me, Prague is a fantastic city. The developers are cheap compared to Western Europe. So why don't we do it in Prague? So I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So I literally took my suitcase and took a plane and landed in Prague and started a company. This company was called All Peers. We raised money from some of the top VC. Unfortunately, we failed, but I still liked the life in Prague. So I decided to stay. And I took over another startup, which I turned from losing a lot of money to profitability. And one day, I discovered Startup Yard. Startup Yard was already existing. It was created in 2011. It's actually the longest running accelerator in CE. We celebrated our 10 years anniversary last year, 2021. And so I started to be a mentor there to kind of, share my experience, having had an exit and a failure behind me. I thought I could potentially add some value to the founders. And 2 years later, so 2014, the board of Startup Yard asked me if I wanted to become the CEO of Startup Yard. And I thought that was also an interesting idea. So I said, okay, let's do it. So that's how you come from being a French guy living in France, ended up running an accelerator here in Central Europe. When I took over Startup Yard, they already had two batch. And it was very a Czech accelerator. So everything, the website was in Czech, everything was in Czech, and which was a problem for me because I didn't speak Czech. I speak a little bit now, but it's still not perfect. So I decided to open it up a little bit to the whole of the CE, because I thought that, we clearly in the region have a word to say when it comes to technology. There's a lot of very, very strong talents in mathematics, for example, which is always a good thing when you want to be a developer. So we started to recruit companies from the whole of the CE. And today, I'm happy because we have invested in 22 different countries. So we have founders from 22 different countries. It goes all the way from, at the top, Estonia, all the way down to Kosovo, and every single country in between. And what we decided to focus on from the very beginning was global solutions or solution to global problems, let's say. That was one of our parameters. And so no more like kind of Czech. And also really focus on the high-tech stuff. Initially myself, I'm an engineer in artificial intelligence from the early 90s, way before it was cool to be in AI. Now it's very cool to be in AI. It's very fashionable to be in AI. And so we decided to really focus on the advanced technology. In fact, we were the first accelerator to rebrand ourselves in 2016 as a deep tech accelerator. And that has been our focus since then. So, a way to summarize is to say, this is an accelerator for high-tech programmers who are working on global problems and who are based in Central and Eastern Europe. That would be the best summary I could give. In 10 years, we have accelerated 91 companies. We have exited from 11, and about 51% of the remaining are still active. So We have startups which have been in our portfolio for 8 years. There's nobody left from the first year and the second year, but we still have two startups from 11 years ago, all the way to now. Altogether, our startup have raised, I mean, the numbers keep changing, and I just had a Slack message saying one of our startups raised again. So it's very difficult to keep track, and I don't have my Excel in front of me. But I think the total of euro raised by our startup today is at 130 million euro, and all of those are from the region. We have one, potentially two future unicorn, unless there really something really goes wrong in the next couple of years. So that's fantastic for the founders. And still working with those tech people and trying to turn them into business people. That's what we do.
Yeah. What is and do you have an idea about the value of your portfolio?
It's not public, but it's in. No, I don't have the number on top of my head. I know they raised 130 million altogether.
I mean, considering 130 million raised, it's like $500 million.
Yeah, something like that. To be honest, I'm not too obsessed by this number. I'm more obsessed about finding really interesting people and people I want to work with. And when you start a company, there are so many things that can go wrong that I don't really, focus on how big is our portfolio. I really focus on what are the best people I can put into our pipeline and be helpful for them. So ultimately that we have an application form on our website, startupyacht.com. You go there, you can apply. They find us through our network. We get a lot of recommendation from our founders. There is something I'm extremely proud of is I always do a net promoter score with our founder after they go through our program. And so far, and it's anonymous, so they can't, there's no worries there. And for now, we have 10 out of 10. So all our founders would recommend us to other founders, which makes me extremely proud of the work we do. So we get founders who come from our companies. We get other teams who come from our mentors. We have a big network of mentors. And also, we go out and we scout. We have some technology to figure out some startup, and then they just apply. We have a few questions that we ask them, super basic question. And if we like what they work on, then we talk to them. That's very simple. As fast as possible, I want to be in front of them and have a conversation with them. And to give you an idea, we accept only on average from one batch to the other 3% of all the applications that we receive. So we're very picky. I'm not after I'm not interested to have a portfolio of thousands and thousands, or have a batch with hundreds of startups like other accelerators might do. I much rather like the personalized approach. So usually we take less than 10 startups for a batch, but the one we take are usually people who impress me, because ultimately that's what I'm looking for. We are, like most accelerator, we are a pre-revenue, sometimes pre-launch accelerator. The startup who come to us when they have revenue, it's like, God sent. So we don't have much data. Usually we have no data to make our selection. So it's really down to the founders, how impressive they are, what they've done in the past, what they have that make them someone we can trust to solve the problem they're working on. And ultimately, what I'm always looking for is, technical people who have a little bit of business or charisma in their DNA, so I can feel comfortable putting them in front of investors, in front of potential partners, customers, and all that. This is for me the ultimate test. Will they, will they ridicule me or not?
Yeah, can you be proud of them?
Yeah, can I be proud of,
You want
can I be
to?
comfortable putting them in front of the network? That's the ultimate acid test for me. There's this famous say that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's very, very true also for a startup. Our job is to accelerate failure and success. And if you are going to fail, it's better to fail fast or realize that maybe you took a wrong direction. So our job is really to make sure that we help those founders realizing their potential or their non-potential as fast as possible, because obviously it happens, we do make mistake, and that's good for us, because I always say that obviously I know nothing, otherwise we would not make mistake. So what I'm trying to do with the accelerator is bring revenue as fast as possible. And this is extremely important. A lot of accelerator will talk about fundraising. Now, of course, you're probably going to need some capital. There's no doubt. But before you talk to an investor, I consider, and probably everybody else consider, that it's more important to talk to potential customer and even better, convert those people, those early people, into customers. Because then when you go and approach a VC or an angel, you have something to show for. You have some conversion rates, you have some really early data that investors who are supposed to do capital risk but don't like to take risk in the region will feel more comfortable. So one thing I didn't say is that we are kind of specialized in B2B. That's very true for the whole region. The whole region is stronger in B2B than B2C. So as a result of that, I have built a network of the top people at corporations. Typically, our founders will meet CEOs or board members or CXOs of large corporations in order to find very quickly if their B2B solution has a reason to exist for those corporate people. Now, of course, the CEO of a large corporation doesn't know anything about building a startup. But you don't become the CEO of a large company because you're an idiot. And they usually know a lot about business as an umbrella term. They know a lot about strategy. They understand go-to-market strategy. They understand marketing. They understand hiring. So this is the network that we have built. It's a kind of an executive corporation network. Of course, we have also a network of the startup network, but there's no need to say that. We also have the network of investors. But for me, these are kind of secondary to the initial goal, which is I'm going to expose those ideas, those prototype, those beta to corporation, and I'm going to get a feeling if this is something that will fly ultimately. So we kind of sit in between the startups, the investors, and the corporations. That's how I see us, and we are a platform for that. Corporations love innovation. They know they can do innovation internally, so they're very hungry for startups. Investors are very hungry for startup because it's their job to invest in them. And the startup ecosystem is a great ecosystem because it's a place where people are happy to share their successes and their failures. So you can also learn a lot. So that's how I've kind of organized our network. So one thing that we don't do is talk about technology. So I mentioned I'm a total geek. I love technology. I became an entrepreneur and I had to deal with all the business side, which I didn't know anything about when I started my first company. So I always assume 99% of our founders are tech people. When there's a business guys, I'm like, wow, this is special. So I always assume that they know how to build things, but they don't know how to market it. They don't know how to sell it. They don't know how to price it. They don't know how to hire people. and so on, and negotiate contracts. They don't know anything about that. So I see our role as filling those gaps. So that's the reason why we barely talk about the technology. Of course, we're going to look at the product a little bit, maybe see if we can improve, some of the conversion, the UX, and things like that. But this can be fixed. That's easy to fix. The business approach is very different. So the first thing we do at Startup Yard is the very first thing we do on the first day is positioning, is to understand that it's not because you have a product that people are going to flock to it and install it or use it and pay for it. You have to understand that you fit in a market. And in order to be able to be visible in the market, you need to be able to position your solution next to your competitor or next to the alternative solution. So the first thing we do is we position the product, the service. We use a product positioning statement, which is a kind of a format that we have that talks about who's the user, what problem, who's the customer, what problem the customer has, what's the solution, and what's unique about the solution. It sounds very simple, but it usually takes a few hours before the teams come up with a perfect, or with a positioning statement that they feel comfortable with. Once we have done that, then I send them to mentoring. So I mentioned earlier, part of our network, we have 125, I think today, mentors who are top level guys. They have at least people like you and I, they have a minimum of 20 years experience in the business. And mentoring with us, I think, is quite similar to Techstars. So the mentors don't choose the startup don't choose the mentors. Everybody meets everyone, which means that the startup will meet a mentor for 45 minutes. That's the duration of a call. So 125 mentors. A startup, therefore, has the potential to have 125 meetings of 45 minutes each. It's extremely intense. And the goal is to expose and those are business people, as I mentioned, and the goal is to expose these startups to these experienced business people and say, well, okay, this is our positioning, this is what we do. And now we need help, on pricing, we need help on go-to-market strategy, we need help on fundraising, of course, that's the obvious one. We will need help on budgeting, we need help on marketing. And so the mentors are sharing with them their thoughts and their experience. So for the founder, it's extremely intense, and it's also very confusing, because you will have two smart people who say the exact opposite. But it's actually fantastic, because it forces them to really, really think and to see that there's no magic recipe. They are mostly from Prague, because we've built a network locally, but we also have mentors who are from across Europe. Especially now that we've moved away from a physical program because of COVID. We are now a fully remote, fully ongoing program. It makes it much easier for us to have mentors from outside of Prague. We offer our startup now, our goal is not to invest money. Our goal is to help founders find or become attractive for customers and become attractive for investors. So all the work we do is to make a sexy product with a sexy offer and have a sexy story for investors. That's the work we do. Of course, usually our startup who come to us don't have any cash. So we offer them a little bit of cash, 20,000 euro, just to cover their basic, expenses. Maybe they want to hire a graphic designer. Maybe they want to hire a special, developer that they don't have, in order to get, again, closer to finding customers. But our job is to help them fundraise. And this is why we work with business angels. This is why we work with VCs. And they are the who bring the real money. I always say, if the only value that you see in an accelerator is the cash, you might just get a loan from a bank. because that's the only value you'll get. If you're joining an accelerator, just because of the money they can give you, you're not thinking right.